Good afternoon. On behalf of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, the Federal Partners in Bullying Prevention, and in honor of National Bullying Prevention Month, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, Internet Safety and Cyberbullying, Keeping Our Kids Safe. This webinar is part of a two-piece series with our second webinar focusing on sexting and sextortion. It will take place on November 20th, 2014, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to mark your calendars now. My name is Steffi Rapp, and I'm a Juvenile Justice Specialist at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention at the Department of Justice. As your moderator today, I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists. Aditi Haveri is a Consumer Education Specialist at the Federal Trade Commission, and Lieutenant Andrea Grossman is the officer in charge of the Internet Crimes Against Children Unit at the Los Angeles Police Department Juvenile Division. We are excited to hear from these presenters. First, Callie Murray from our National Training and Technical Assistance Center will share a few features of Adobe Connect.
Thank you, Steffi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Callie Murray, and I am with OJJDP's INTAC. I want to just go over a few of the technical specifications of Adobe Connect to assist you with the webinar today. First, if you would like to send a chat message, please use the chat box, which I see most of you have discovered. Type your message into the chat area. Click enter or click the message bubble icon to send. Second, help us count. If you are viewing as a group today, please go to the chat window and type in the number of additional people joining you today. If you are viewing by yourself, there is no need to type anything at this time. Finally, webinars are archived on OJJDP's online university in approximately 10 business days. You can see all of our past webinars archived here, as well as this one, in about 10 business days. Now I want to just quickly review the webinar learning objectives. Following participation in this webinar, participants will be able to understand how to educate kids on the dangers of online predators, learn about the consequences of cyberbullying, and identify tools to keep you safe online. I will now turn over to our first presenter, Aditi Haveri.
Hi, thanks so much, Callie. I'm really happy to be here today talking about how adults, parents, teachers, and a lot of other folks can start the conversation with kids about online safety and digital citizenship. So a little bit more about my background. Again, my name is Aditi Haveri, and I'm a Consumer Education Specialist at the Federal Trade Commission. And as the nation's Consumer Protection Agency, we bring a lot of cases against companies that try to deceive consumers. We also create policy to protect consumers, and we develop consumer education materials on many topics, which is what I do in my shop, on things like avoiding scams, protecting your privacy, preventing identity theft, and more. And in partnership with other federal agencies, the FTC developed OnGuardOnline.gov, which is a great resource which provides tips, toolkits, and print publications to help people of all ages stay safe, secure, and responsible online. So the tips I'm going to cover today are actually from our NetCetera campaign, which was created for adults, parents, and teachers to kind of start the conversation with kids about online safety. So I'm going to jump right into the presentation. As you are all well aware, kids of all ages are connecting with their friends online. They're video chatting, texting, commenting. They're also making decisions about which apps to download and accessing a lot of different content on the go, kind of outside of their parents' maybe attention or understanding. They're also sharing their location and details about their lives, as well as photos and videos for a lot of different people to see. And last but not least, they're building profiles and reputations online that can affect them in real life. So we all know being online is a way of life for kids and teens these days. It's second nature, it's in their DNA, and it's fun and can be helpful, but it can come with certain risks. And as technology evolves, so do the risks associated with it. While kids value the opinions of their peers, most tend to rely on parents or other adults for help on the issues that matter most. So talking to your kids or your students is a really good idea, and our advice is to start early. As soon as your child or student starts using a phone, tablet, or computer, it's time to talk about online safety. And don't wait for kids to come to you once they have a problem. Initiate conversations. And a way to do this is to use everyday opportunities to start a dialogue. For instance, if there's a news story about cyberbullying or texting while driving, this can spur a conversation with kids about their experiences and also your expectations. And speaking of expectations, it's important to be honest about what your expectations are and how they apply in an online context. Be specific about what's off limits and what you consider to be unacceptable. And as kids are posting their photos, videos, comments, locations, thoughts, and basically everything online, some key messages to drive home include, once you post something online, you can't take it back. This is something that can't be repeated enough. Even if they try to delete a photo or comment from a site or send a text that's supposed to disappear in a few seconds as was promised on a popular social networking app, kids and any adults, anybody really, we don't have very much control over versions that could have easily been saved on other people's devices. So this is just something really important to emphasize. Once you post something online, you can't take it back. And children should understand that parts of their profiles may be seen by a broader audience than they may be comfortable with. For instance, employers, college admissions officers, coaches, teachers, and the police may be able to view their posts. So if kids know this, they may be more likely to think twice before posting something and kind of to thinking critically about what might be a good thing to post versus not. And emphasizing the concept of credibility is also very important. Even the most tech-savvy kids need to understand that not everything they see online is true, and people online might not be who they say they are. And I think Andrea is going to go into some interesting examples in the next presentation. And most importantly, starting the message and starting the conversation about sexting, it might be kind of uncomfortable, but it's important to have the conversation about avoiding sex talk online and telling kids to never share nude photos. When it comes to sexting, the bottom line message is don't do it. People who create, forward, or even save sexually explicit photos, videos, messages put their reputations at risk and could also be breaking the law. So it's important to kind of emphasize the consequences of what could happen if kids try to sext or have sex talk online. And moving on to general online interactions, because kids don't see facial expressions generally, body language or other visual cues as they're communicating online unless they're video chatting, kids may feel free to do or say things online that they wouldn't in real life, and I'm sure we've all witnessed this at one point or another. So reminding them that politeness counts is a good idea, and letting them know that it's wrong and can be hurtful to create profiles, comments, or posts that seem to come from someone else, especially if it's someone in their class or a teacher. And remind kids that they're talking to real people with real feelings online. Whether they're in a game or on a social networking site, it's just important for them to remember what's real. And if kids witness something inappropriate on a social networking site or in a game, they should let a website know and also tell an adult that they trust. And most importantly, kids should understand that they don't have to stand for bullying online or off. And again, I know that Andrea is going to cover cyberbullying in more detail, But just a few key points I wanted to mention. As you may all be well aware, cyberbullying is harassment or bullying that happens online, and it can happen in a text, in chat, in a game, or it could be a photo that's passed around for others to see. And remind kids that most people realize that bullying is wrong. It's not socially acceptable, and it's not okay. Also remind kids that they themselves can't hide behind the words that they post, and that they shouldn't perpetuate the cycle. They shouldn't forward mean messages that others have sent to them either. So what can kids do? They should be encouraged to tell an adult they trust, and maybe that adult is you. Also, they should know not to react back in a mean way, that they should tell the bully to stop. And also, you can help kids save the evidence and also block the bully online. So while we may traditionally think of protecting kids online to mean protecting them from predators or bullies, which is very important, it's also important to think about protecting kids' information from hackers and scammers. So here are just a few key things that it's important to help kids understand. And one of these is interesting. So as kids are using social networking sites and then also using the apps on their phones or other mobile devices, it's important to adjust the privacy settings in both places because sometimes the settings can be different. Also, have the conversation with kids about what information is private and should stay that way and should not be broadcasted online, such as their passwords, any social security numbers, and any family financial information. Also, remind kids that it's important to log out of their accounts once they're done using them. More and more we're seeing that the default setting, if you're signing into a social networking site or an email account, is that the box that says keep me signed in is by default checked off. So remind them to uncheck that box and log off. This can help keep people that shouldn't be in their accounts out. And deleting messages that ask for personal information is important as well. So your kids may be receiving phishing emails or messages, even texts, that ask them to verify their passwords or ask for financial information or include links that may actually be viruses. So if you, as an adult, as a parent, teacher, receive one of these messages, it might be an interesting teachable moment to kind of walk through what alerted you to the fact that this was a scam or spam message and show it to kids so that they understand it for the next time they might get one and they'll know what to do. So unfortunately, as you all know, in the past year we've had a number of major data breaches that have affected millions of Americans. And creating strong passwords for adults and kids alike can make it harder for hackers to get into your accounts and to get at your information. So it's essential to teach kids the importance of creating strong passwords to protect their information, and these are hopefully habits that they'll keep with them in the future. So what makes a strong password? They should be long and unique, not something that's easy to guess. So reminding kids that using their names or their birth dates or just something that's very easy to guess is not a good idea. They should use a mix of letters, numbers, and special characters, and you can encourage them to be unique and creative. And they can even consider using a passphrase if that's easier to remember. It doesn't have to be I love my mommy, but something that's a sentence instead of just a word, and using numbers instead of letters in different places. And if you don't remember anything else, just please remember this from my presentation. Remind your kids to make different passwords for their different accounts. This is important because if a hacker gets access to one password and you have the same password for all your accounts, then hey, they've got access to all of your accounts. So your passwords and your kids' passwords should be unique to each account. And I'm noticing that a lot of people are forgetting to password protect their devices. This is also an important thing to remember, and it'll help keep their photos and other information from falling into the wrong hands. And while kids may want to share all their secrets, passwords are something that they should really remember to keep private and not share with their best friends, boyfriends, or girlfriends. And moving on to talking a little bit about online safety on the go, imagine a scenario where your tween or teen is at a coffee shop hanging out with friends, or maybe in a library studying. Perhaps your family is on vacation and waiting at an airport or in a hotel room, and you're connecting to the Wi-Fi hotspot. It's free, you're excited, either your kids don't have a data plan on your mobile device, or they're trying to be conscientious and not use up your family data plan. Either way, they're connecting and they're excited to connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot. And something that everyone should be aware of is that most public Wi-Fi hotspots are not secure. I know I use them, and I'm guilty of doing this, but there are certain ways to protect your information when you are using Wi-Fi hotspots in public places. So one thing you can help your kids do is to turn off the Wi-Fi auto-connect feature so that they can choose their own networks. Unfortunately, scammers sometimes create sound-alike networks. So if you're at a hotel or at a coffee shop, they may, add an extra letter to the end, add an extra number to the end, make it sound like the place you are. And if you're not careful, you might accidentally connect to this network. And the scammer, unfortunately, might be able to see everything that you send and receive, including passwords, messages, photos, account information, and they could even potentially take over your kid's account if they're accessing their networks from public Wi-Fi networks. So another thing you can do is have kids look for a pop-up window asking for a WPA or WPA2 password. If you're not asked for a password to join a Wi-Fi hotspot, as I mentioned, other people may be able to see what you send over that network. Another way to kind of be safer using Wi-Fi hotspots is to use secure websites that either have HTTPS or a padlock symbol in the address bar. And one other thing to keep in mind is if you're using apps while you're on public Wi-Fi, those apps are also connecting to the public Wi-Fi, meaning someone could also see what you're doing on those apps. So remind kids not to use apps that ask for personal information while they're on public Wi-Fi. And this is my last slide. I just wanted to talk a little bit about location features, and especially as kids are really checking into different places and sharing their information, it's important to chat with them about how to use these features safely. As you know, there are apps that allow kids to find their friends and also, other people to find your kids. And while that can be fun, explain that there are downsides to letting everyone know where they are. They should only be using location features with people they know personally and trust, not anyone they've met online. And also, they should consider turning off their location for apps that might not need it. For instance, say they downloaded a wallpaper background of Justin Bieber or are playing a game or downloaded a game. Do those apps really need to know where your kid is? Probably not. So, work with them in their settings on their phones to turn off their location for those particular apps. And something else to keep in mind is when you post a photo that you took on your phone, your location could be attached to it. So if your kids are, say, taking a photo of themselves near their school or near your home and they're broadcasting it online, that could have implications for their physical safety as well. So consider disabling the location on their smartphone's camera. And I think Andrew's going to talk a little bit about this coming up as well. So I know that I've covered a lot of information today on socializing safely online and on the go. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. And if you'd like any more information on the topics I've covered today, please visit onguardonline.gov. And I've listed a couple of different specific places you can go that we've created for different audiences. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you could order any of our materials for free online from ftc.gov/bulk order. and you can use these materials in PTA meetings. You can have them on hand at a police station or in a library. You can even send them home with kids if you're a teacher. You can use them in a variety of ways. So hopefully this has been helpful, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Aditi. We'll now hear from Lieutenant Andrea Grossman.
Hello, I'm here to talk about Internet safety. First, I want to talk about the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. They were established in 1998. There's 61 of them around the country, and there's one by you. So basically, if you have any problems with the sexual exploitation of a child, you can go to the ICACtaskforce.org and find the local representative for you, and they can help you. The reason that's important is we do cases all over the world, and we're one big family. To give you an example, we had a case that came out of Russia where a child was bred to be a sex slave. That child ended up in New Zealand, Australia, Germany, and finally landed in the United States. When he landed in the United States, the suspects were arrested, and we were able to get all 5 countries together and arrest every party. So it was a really good thing that we all talked together and we all worked together. That's with the FBI, Homeland Security, Postal, and our state and locals. One of the challenges we have with the Internet is that it's been growing so rapidly. If you look at the stats that I've just put up, you'll look in the last 10 years, cyber crimes have increased 1,066%. But the incidents of child sexual exploitation that have been reported to the cyber tip line have increased 1,600%. If you compare that to general crime, according to the FBI, is down 11%. What that means is that there are more predators out there, and they're looking for your children. Okay, now that I've scared you a little bit, you're going to ask me, what do they look like? Well, I posted some of the people that we've arrested and prosecuted. They're from all races. They're all socioeconomic classes. They're your janitors, your lawyers, your firefighters, your police officers, your priests, your coaches. They're anyone that has access to your children. They could be your neighbors. The big thing that we have with the Internet is everyone has a perception of anonymity. They believe that they're not going to be getting caught. The next question is, where do they live? Well, they live in apartments. They live in houses. This picture here that I'm showing of the house is just a typical house for us, but so is the next picture. It could be your neighbor. They're all around you, so when you think your neighborhood is safe, unfortunately it's not. You ask how they meet. Well, I've put up some of the social networking sites. If you're not familiar with them, Kik, AIM, Tag, Tumblr, Whisper is an anonymous site. All these sites that you're seeing, if you see those on your child or a child's phone, you need to talk to that child. That child has the ability to meet people online, and you may not even know what's happening. Chat rooms is the next biggest danger. I put a picture up here. There's a 14-year-old that thinks she's talking to another 14-year-old. In reality, you can see who she's talking to. Now, that's a dramatic picture, but it is what happens. If I was to go into a chat room, within 2.5 minutes, I can have someone asking me my name, age, and location, and then, do you want to meet? Unfortunately, it's one of the most dangerous places for our children, but it's where our predators are hanging out. So if you see your kids or the people you're guarding in a chat room, let them know that the people are impersonating kids. We had a case down here where a child was talking to someone. They thought they're coming to meet a 17-year-old person. It turned out to be a 54-year-old person who kidnapped the child, and then we had to go to work to save the child. And it was all because of the chat rooms. If you're looking at this picture here, what he's going to say he's a good guy with a wild streak. He's unlucky in love. He's vulnerable, sensitive, adventurous, mistreated. He's a poet. He's physical. He's fit. The top picture is a picture that the gentleman posted. The bottom picture is kind of what he looks like. If you can take a look, it's a little bit different than what the reality is in perception. The next thing is he's going to be saying he can be trusted. These are pictures that were sent to individuals, and they're showing that you can trust me. Trust me. Send me your picture. And what does he do with these pictures? You're going to ask, why does he ask for the pictures? One is he wants to show the child that he's a trusted member of the community. that he wants to communicate with children of all ages, with all different backgrounds, and he's open to, quote, receiving sexy pictures. Now, by getting the pictures, you may be asking, why does he ask for them? Well, he wants to make sure he's not talking to me. He wants to make sure that he's not talking to a police officer, that he's talking to a real kid. And he wants to make sure the kids trust him enough to send photos. Some children are more willing than others to send pictures of themselves. The next question you ask is, how does he gain your trust? How does he get kids to send him naked pictures? And how does he get them to meet them? The simplest word is manipulation. He's going to manipulate that child into believing that he is the best thing since sliced bread, and that he understands them, he loves them, and he is here for them. And that's part of the grooming process. But the manipulation could be flattery. He pretends to be concerned with a child's life. He pretends to be interested. He pretends to understand the children. He'll send them gifts. If you find a cell phone that you don't know where it came from, an iPod or a camera, you need to be concerned. There's a predator out there probably trying to groom your child into meeting them. He'll next ask about the sexual exploitation. Someone just asked about whether there are male and females. We have both male and female predators, but mostly we arrest males. He may ask them to send pornography to them. He may ask them to send any pictures that are innocent to begin with. After he sends those pictures that are innocent, he's going to ask for more revealing pictures, and then finally he's going to ask to meet them. Aftermath. After he's got the children or he's got the photos, the next thing he's going to try to do is blackmail those children. He's going to then he'll trade those pictures to get more pictures from other people. And then he'll blackmail the children into meeting with to have sex, and then blackmail them to have a meeting with sex with others. The good part of it, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force is here. And if you've noticed, these are all people that got to go to jail after we became involved. So as a teacher or a person that's looking after children, remember the police are here. Call us. We can follow an IP address. We can take over an account, and we can put the bad person in jail. It's real simple. In the month of May, the LA Regional ICAC put on a Operation Broken Heart, and we were able to arrest 286 predators. And that was done, and most of the regions did the same thing around the same time. The reason they're doing it is they believe there's an anonymity. They believe that we cannot find the ISP and we cannot follow the trails. We can. That's the good part. When people say that we don't know where the breadcrumbs are, we are going to be able to find that. Right there's a site of a picture just showing you how we can use some websites and other programs to figure out where the IP address came from. EXIF data. Unfortunately, I put a picture of my own dog in there. Sorry, but I had to do a little self-preservation here. I took that with an iPhone 4. As you can tell, there's a longitude and latitude there, and there's a date I took it. Very simple. We had a case in Los Angeles where a child took a picture of herself. Our suspect went and took the picture and put it in what's called an EXIF reader, was able to figure out the longitude and latitude, and then kidnap that child. So when you're putting up pictures and you're posting pictures, you need to either strip out the EXIF data or you need to shut off your location. And again, I can go into that a little bit more on the questions and answers and tell you some of the programs that could strip that stuff out for you. Cyberbullying is a big problem in the United States. If you're looking again at these websites, then you know you probably have a problem, because these are the websites the kids are going on, and these are the ones that some of them are notorious for cyberbullying. One would be Whisper, the one with the W there. Basically, that's anonymous, and people think that we can't get to it, and they think that they can talk in private and say things that they wouldn't say in public, but they can say behind someone's back. The rest of them also have problems or challenges to them. If you see anything on your child's phone or a child's phone, ask them about it, and remember them, whatever they put on the internet is there to stay. Right now there are 49 states that have legislation regarding cyberbullying. For the bullying, the consequences can be suspension, expulsion, or juvenile hall. For the victim, it can be isolation, depression, or even suicide. There are many types of bullying, but if we talk about the physical stuff, that would be the stuff that you're seeing on the yard or in the schools, the hitting, the kicking, the pushing, and the taking of things. It could also be the verbal, which is taunting, flaming, which I'll go into in a few minutes, teasing, name-calling, and terrorizing. But the electronic media, or the cyberbullying, is when they start spreading rumors, they manipulate, there's extortion, and there's intimidation. The progression of bullying generally starts with mocking. Then it goes into some sort of teasing, some sort of bullying, and bullying and cyberbullying can be synonymous. When you ask what is bullying, bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior among school children that involves a real or physical power. They believe there's a power imbalance. The behavior is repeated and it is potential to be repeated. Cyberbullying is basically the same thing, except they're using an electronic media to inflict harm. I've also put some definitions down, such as trolling, happy slapping, identity theft, photo swapping, physical threats, and rumor spreading. And I put the definitions out there just because you're going to see that. Because we have technology, a lot of times people don't have issues, they don't talk face-to-face. So with that, they're going to be using electronic media to communicate bad things to those children. You're asking, how do we educate kids about cyberbullying? The first thing is you tell kids you can't take it back. You need to remind them, don't say mean, offensive things offline, don't post bad things, and your actions are documented forever. You need to stop and think. The main thing what I'd like you to take back is that you need to change the school culture. We need to change the norms and the values of the school so that bullying is no longer accepted by both the staff or the students. What that means is getting the kids involved. Here in Los Angeles, what we do is we have a cyber symposium where we challenge children of all ages to come up with an internet safety program that they can promote within their schools. We get the kids involved. Now, we do have a cash prize for the winner and a second and third prize, but everyone wins when the kids get involved and cyberbullying does not become the norm. Some of the tips you can give out: talk to a parent, teacher, counselor, or other trusted person. As an adult, you guys need to make sure you keep records. You need the proof. You need to not delete the current accounts. You need to also contact the internet providers. You need to give the police or the schools the power so they can see what's going on. If there's no evidence, it didn't happen. You also need to make sure your school has an internet safety program. I know here out in LA, we go to a lot of schools and we talk about internet safety, and we meet with the teachers and we meet with the PTAs, and we go over that constantly so that they know what's going on. Monitor children's activities. You can also use filters and blocking software, and cultivate an open, candid communication with the children. How do you assist a child and parents? You provide support. Run internet searches on some screen names. Print out the bullying incidents. Keep the evidence. The electronic media must be preserved. You can stop it, block it, tell a teacher. And on a child, you need to look for the isolation, the depression, and the suicide signs so that they do not become victims. You can also report bad behavior. One of the best places is a cyber tip line. That will go to the local law enforcement agency in the area, and they'll make sure that it gets investigated. And again, if you take a look at cybertip.com or missingchildren.com. Also, some other helpful sites that you might be looking at is NetSmart. Common Sense Media generally will give you a real good information about all the sites and things like that. Cyberbullying USA, cyberbullying.us, and also Missing Kids. Also, stopbullying.gov has some really good tips on what to do. Thank you. I'm ready for questions and answers.
Thank you, Andrea and Aditi. We do have some questions here. The first question is, are there anonymous reporting systems that a student can use to report such an incident without being caught in the middle of friendships, like this is about cyberbullying?
You can go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and put the cyber tip line, and that will get to us.
Okay. And I guess also, schools probably have different ways of handling cyberbullying and bullying in general. Are there laws against adults bullying children or cyberbullying children?
The laws, depending on the child, and it depends on the state. There's child annoying laws that if a parent is annoying a child, we can make a child annoying arrest. If it's a child on child, that depends on the state and the laws that are within the state.
Okay. Here's another question about laws. Are there any laws that make parents responsible for a child's bullying behavior?
I believe the child is always, the parent is always responsible for the child until the age of 18. So they're always liable civilly.
And Andrea, I know that that these online predators come from all backgrounds, but is there any kind of a profile that you can give?
There's absolutely no profile. They're male. I can give you that. 98% or 98% of the time they are male. We've only had 2 females in 5 years arrested, but there is no profile. They come from all social economics. If they're befriending your child and they don't have any children, I would beware.
Okay. What do you think about how we can educate bystanders of bullying and cyberbullying?
You've got to change the norm. You've got to change the school culture. And that's the most important thing. If it's not acceptable, then everyone knows it's not acceptable. If you change the norm, then the children are going to protect each other. And the adults would like to. The adults and staff have to realize it's not the norm also.
I agree with Andrea. I think that's a great point. And I think on that note, just to remind people that there are free resources out there to help bring information and education about cyberbullying and a lot of the other online safety issues that we discussed into the schools and into homes. And again, if you have any questions about those resources, I believe that they are attached in the Adobe Connect. It's one of the handouts pods on your top right-hand corner. So definitely take a look at that. And again, remember that the FTC does offer a lot of free resources for you to order, and these are created and tailored for kids, teens, parents, and teachers individually, and you can use them in a lot of different ways, and they do cover cyberbullying as a topic and other issues as well.
There are also some programs that parents can install on children's phones so they get to see the text and they get to see the apps and they get to know who their children are talking to. Those would be things I would research. Unfortunately, as a law enforcement person, I can't say one is better than the other. But if you were to Google that, you would find some phone companies and with some ratings, and I would suggest that if you're concerned about that, you'll see those, you'll see what your kids are texting, and you know what your children are up to.
Andrea, how should cyberbullying that occurs off campus, but the kids are all in school together, be handled by the school staff?
It depends on the
Even
state.
if the act wasn't done in school.
California, for example, is one state where the laws are a little bit different off campus than they are on campus. And it also depends whether the school has a policy against cyberbullying and what the schools can do. I don't know what state it is. I can tell you in the state of California, there's been lawsuits against people that have done things that have been off campus and then had punishment on campus. In the state of California, it doesn't work. But I can tell you that I can always take a police report for child annoying and do a knock and talk and come on everyone's door on both the parties and explain the differences, and that seems to work. And here in Los Angeles, we're more than welcome to knock on the door and explain that this is inappropriate behavior.
Okay. How do you see how can a community convince district officials that bullying is an issue that they need to get involved in at that level?
Are we talking about laws, or are we talking about just to get training or just to have people come in?
I think to take the issue seriously and to create laws if there aren't any already being followed, or how do we get, higher level, how do we get people that are in positions of power to get on board?
I would bring a presentation. Get an ICAT, get the FCC, get someone who understands what cyberbullying is, and the presentations are free. We can show you in your region how devastating cyberbullying is. All police departments can help you, and they can explain, and they can show you that they can explain some of the crime that has happened without using names and numbers of how it can keep going up and how some child can be devastated. I believe education is the best course of action for anything.
Right. And how can people get in touch with their state ICAC task forces?
If you go to ICACtaskforce.org, look for your state. You're all there. The commanders' names are all listed, their phone numbers, and their emails.
Thank you so much. Aditi, thank you so much. Do we have any other questions that you all see? Oh, we have a couple more questions. Could you explain a little more about the location data that's attached to the Instagram photos or other uploaded photos?
Okay, first off, Facebook strips out the EXIF data, but other people do not. But the EXIF data, basically, if you leave your location on your photo, you can take that photo, drop it into a program that's called EXIF, and it will tell you the longitude and latitude. You take the longitude and latitude and drop it into Google, and it'll give you a map of exactly where that picture was taken, to like 100 feet. Does that make sense, or did I answer whoever's question?
I think that makes sense. Thanks, Andrea.
Again, if someone's got other questions in detail, my name and number is on the ICAC task force. I'm happy to take phone calls later.
Thank you. Why do you think all schools don't have policies that address bullying or cyberbullying?
Ma'am, I'm only a cop. I think they should have tons of them. I think that's the parents' responsibility to get the schools together by working through your PTA. The parents have to demand, and if the parents demand it, the school board will do what the parents want.
Yeah. Okay, could you please elaborate on how to strip the EXIF data?
If you were to get a program called IFAN, and if you were to download it into that, all you have to do is hit remove EXIF data, or on your iPhone or your Android or whatever phone you have, go to the settings where it says location, shut location off, and then EXIF data will not be put on that phone, or that picture, excuse me.
Andrea, can you say one more time what that program was that you mentioned?
IFAN.
And how do you spell that?
IRFAN.
Thank you.
IRFAN.
Thank you.
You download that program. What we do is when we do pictures, we strip the data in by dropping that picture in there, and we just have that picture removed all data. So if the police ever post a picture, we generally use programs like that. Again, I can't say one program is better than the other. I can tell you that program is free, and we like free.
Yeah. Is there a resource available to stay current with social media sites that kids are using today? Would you say it's mostly
Common Sense Media does a pretty good job of that. They have, when there's one that I don't know on, I generally go to Common Sense Media.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you both so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you, presenters, and to the audience for your participation. Remember, we're going to be having our follow-up webinar on sexting and sextortion on November 20th, and we look forward to having you be a part of that again. Thanks so much, Andrea, for being